One of my favorite things is to answer questions that come into FreeThinking Ministries on a weekly basis. My colleague Graydon has a question for me to interact with today. What do you got for us, Graydon?
Yeah, this question comes in from Jason. It says, Dr. Tim, you recently shared a Facebook post highlighting the Apostle Paul's words in 1 Corinthians 10:15. It reads, I speak as to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. You then added the following, be a free thinker. Don't let something or someone else causally determine your judgments. Do you really want to trust your own judgments and not let God cause and determine all of your judgments? Being led by the Spirit means letting God lead your mind and heart in everything. The context here has nothing to do with libertarian free will. God causally determines all things all the time. So, Dr. Stratton, how would you respond to Jason and his question here?
Well, I'd begin by saying, yes, I think we are warranted in trusting our own ability to reason, especially when we're being careful on matters like these. Now, this is the case because if Christianity is true, and we have good reason to believe that it is true, I mean, click here if you'd like to see why, then God seems to have created humanity with, I think, the supernatural ability to take thoughts captive, 2 Corinthians 10:5, Colossians 2:8, and to think logically and to use reason. Isaiah 1:18 is a good Bible verse supporting that as well. So this grace is what separates humanity from the animal kingdom. Now, Jason seems to hold a view that many Calvinists affirm, exhaustive divine determinism. I just abbreviate that as EDD, EDD. But God seems to be nothing more than a very powerful deity of deception who causally determines all people, including Calvinists, to happily affirm false theological beliefs. That's what follows on this ED view. However, on this view, major problems arise. For example, a Christian's assurance of salvation seems to go down the drain. Now, of course, one might verbally assert their subjective confidence, but this assertion rings hollow to those who are willing to see the bigger picture. This is the case because if a deity of deception has causally determined you to possess assurance of salvation, then how can you have assurance of anything when a known god of mischief like Loki from the Avengers tells you to trust him?
You can trust me.
Loki, I've studied almost every moment of your entire life. You've literally stabbed people in the back like 50 times.
Why never do it again?
If God causally determines all things all the time, as many, perhaps most Calvinists affirm, and you're not infallible, then this means that you hold and possess false beliefs. Unless you claim to have perfect theology, then it logically follows that God causally determines you to happily affirm false theological beliefs. If this is not a deity of deception, I don't know what is. Of course, God is not a deity of deception. In fact, I'd argue that it's impossible for a maximally great being to also be a deity of deception. So we have two drastically different views of God here. And I contend that Jason's view of God, which is entailed by Ed Calvinism, is wrong. It's a low view of the divine and ultimately worship of a false god. I encourage those who hold this low view of God to drop it and get a new one, which logically affirms, allows, and leads to the maximal greatness of God. I like to offer the following challenge. Do you hold the highest view of God or the highest view of your favorite and subjective concept of God? The former ought to trump the latter, lest one worship an idol. If one tacitly affirms that God is a deity of deception, which seems to be antithetically opposed to the God Jesus revealed, then one has no reason to believe anything the deity of deception provides them so-called assurance of, including one's salvation. So, although many believe that Ed Calvinism provides assurance of salvation, it's actually self-defeating and destroys this blessed assurance.
So, Jason said, being led by the Spirit means letting God lead your mind and heart in everything. What would you say in response to that, Tim?
Well, what does he mean by letting? That seems to imply the libertarian freedom and opportunity to allow God to lead or not to lead. That's a range of alternative options, each seemingly compatible with one's nature at the moment of choice. That's the epitome of libertarian freedom, the same libertarian freedom that Calvinists are determined to reject. Be that as it may, don't confuse being led by the Spirit with being causally determined by God. Those are two different things. Indeed, the Spirit has led me to offer this response video to Jason, but God is not causally determining me to do so. Now, if one affirms that God is causally determining me to offer this in response to Jason, and one also asserts that my response is false, then once again, we have a deity of deception on our hands. And as previously noted, God is not a deity of deception. Thus, the view of Calvinism is just plain wrong. Calvinists should drop it and get a new one, which logically allows the maximal greatness of God.
So Jason wrote that the context here has nothing to do with libertarian free will or anything like that. What do you think about that claim, Dr. Stratton?
I beg to differ. It's got everything to do with libertarian freedom. For proper context, consider the passage in question and examine Paul's own words from the ESV, 1 Corinthians 10, 12 through 15. Therefore, let anyone who thinks that he stands take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. Therefore, my beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. So, to see why the context here has everything to do with libertarian freedom, consider the following syllogism. Premise 1. If Christians possess the opportunity to exercise their ability to choose among a range of alternative options, each compatible with their regenerated nature at a given moment, then Christians possess libertarian freedom. 2. At the moment of temptation, Christians possess the opportunity to exercise their ability to choose between giving in to temptation or to take the way of escape God promises to provide. 1 Corinthians 10:13. 3, therefore, Christians possess libertarian freedom. The Apostle Paul, the same guy who wrote Romans 9, is clear that some people possess an opportunity and ability to choose otherwise. This isn't mere libertarian freedom, not being causally determined by something or someone else. But this is what I refer to as a strong view of libertarian freedom. Moreover, think about this. If something or someone other than you, like Loki, the god of mischief, causally determines all of your judgments, then you can't judge for yourself on any matter. On this Calvinist view, you are nothing but a passive cog at the mercy of the whims of a deity of deception. On my view, however, I'm an active agent who contributes to my overall set of beliefs, as I'm created in the image and likeness of a supernatural, maximally great being by his grace. God has revealed truth and desires all people to know the truth, according to 1 Timothy 2:4. God does not causally determine every human to happily affirm and advance false theological beliefs. No, God desires every human to know the truth. Now, Jason seems to be confusing God revealing truth with God causally determining all thoughts, all beliefs, all evaluations, and all judgments. Those two things are radically different. Bottom line, God is not a Dodd, a deity of deception, and you are not a passive cog. So with that in mind, stay tuned, stay reasonable, and judge for yourselves what I say. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please like it, please share it, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, FreeThinking Ministries. Thanks a lot. Stay reasonable. See you next time.